As somebody who loves radio, I loves being I never met a mic I didn't like. It's such an honor to when you rub elbows with the great ones. And so you get to meet and get to know them a little better and see what makes them tick. So today I have an amazing opportunity to chat with a Boston radio legend, Jordan Rich. So here's I don't think we have enough time for me to read off everything he's done because he's so amazing. Jordan has been a respected Boston broadcaster for over 40 years. I believe it was 1978 when he started at WRKO. And his passion for the business remains as strong as ever. He's been heard on Boston's WBZ AM 1030 for over 25 years, including a 20-year run as host of the popular Jordan Rich Show, a late-night talk show that garnered listeners from across the nation. Currently, Jordan produces and hosts a variety of features on the station, including the WBZ New England Weekend, the Connoisseurs Corner, the WBZ Book Club. That I was on that. He read my book and reviewed it. Thank you, Jordan. And now streaming with Jordan and the Upside with Jordan podcasts are available at www.wbz1030.com. He's doing so much. He's also an in-demand local and national voiceover artist. His voice is amazing when you hear him, if you haven't already. He is co-owner of Chart Productions, an audio video production house specializing in voiceover production and podcasting. He's also doing coaching for voiceover, and he's just got so much going on. I'm not going to bore you with me any longer. So let's welcome Jordan. Hello.
My head is too big for the headphones after that introduction.
I know, right?
Goodness, you're too sweet, and you're wonderful. Hi, Steph.
Hi, I'm so happy you're here. Thank you so much for doing this with me. I know it's always so hard with busy schedules to kind of have you come all the way down to Marshfield into the studio, but we're doing this here and we're able to make it work, which is technology, thank God, right?
Indeed. Thank you for the opportunity to do it this way. This is what we've all come to do now, link up with people all over the world this way, and it's fantastic.
Yeah, people like to, poo-poo the technology. I like it has definitely, it's been a benefit and a great use of connecting people as long as you maintain getting together in person.
Absolutely. And you were here in this room that I'm in now, and that's where we actually physically met. We talked about your book and your philosophy, and we sort of fell in like very quickly and then love after that. And you brought me food, you fed me and the team here. So grazie. That's all I can say.
Oh, prego. So it was a great day. Like, I love it. I have an easy time getting, on the mic and chatting. So it's a lot of fun. And it was an honor to be in your studio. So let's talk about the early years. You've been doing this forever, and you had the passion. Like, what prompted you to get into radio, to love radio?
It's all about the early years. I was a kid in the 60s, and so I listened to radio in bed and a little transistor with a little earpiece. And I was fascinated by the late nights because there were skip waves, and you'd hear stations in Chicago and Cleveland and New York, of course, and Baltimore. And I just hearing these voices in the night, and I was fascinated by that. Also, I have still a vivid imagination. I love theater, I love movies, and I love the quote unquote theater of the mind aspect. So the whole idea of creating a world with just a voice fascinated me at a very young age. So that's what hooked me. And then I got into school, and one thing led to another, and here I am.
And you attended and graduated from Curry College. So you're local, you're South Shore guy.
I am as local as you can get. I used to talk like local. Hey, how are you? And I still do when I relax and have a little something to drink after a hard day. But for the most part, I grew up on the South Shore. I grew up in Randolph and Quincy. Went to school very close by. Was a commuter lunchbox student, and was working. My first job was, you'll love this, at an Italian restaurant. I'm Jewish, but the same thing, basically. Few variations. So I was always working and schlepping around and working to pay my own way and all that. And yeah, I've been blessed, really, Steph, to be in one place my entire career. A lot of guys and gals have to move around a lot in this business, but not me, which I consider a real blessing from above.
Yeah, I love it. Well, I won't hold it against you that you're from the South Shore because I'm a North Shore girl.
Roast beef versus bar pizza. I know.
Right, it's crazy. You know what? I didn't even know that. I didn't know because I never even went to the South Shore, like, until until I'm in Marshfield in the
Yeah.
studio, so
Well, there was a dividing line. It was almost like the Dixie line. I mean, you didn't cross over, or the East Berlin, West Berlin thing. I mean, the idea of going to Marblehead was like, oh, or Saugus, wow. And but there was always the Kowloon, which dragged me over there,
right.
and many other great spots. And I have come to love the North Shore very, very much. And I think there's a great, great now symbiotic
Yes.
relationship between South and North that didn't
Yeah,
exist way back when.
we're crossing the Zakum.
Yes, the Zakim is the crossing border.
We're crossing the Zakum, so yeah, well, because when I was young, if I got to those gas tanks, we're going to the Cape.
You're not just going to the Cape, you're going down the
Yeah,
Cape,
yes,
which is really weird the way
down
we
the
talk
Cape.
around here. "Yeah, I'm going down the Cape." "Oh, really? You're going up the, Gloucester?" "No, and you're going up to Gloucester." It doesn't matter.
It's
It's
crazy.
completely
So let me
nonsense.
ask you for your expertise on the accent. Now, obviously, you've been doing radio for so long, and nobody from California would know that you're from Boston. How I'm asking for my own self, how terrible is it to keep the accent when you're on the radio?
It's absolutely a beautiful thing to have your natural, real accent, particularly somebody like you. You're a personality born of this area. It's part of who you are.
Yes.
When I studied and learned my craft early on, we were old school ABC, learn how to pronounce things like a standard American from the Midwest.
Right.
And, the reason for that, and it still should hold true, is, doing voice work, and voices can go anywhere in any continent these days. So you wanted to be not, beholden to one particular area. But the secret to it, there's 2 secrets. One is listening. You have to learn how to listen to your own voice, and that's something I teach and help people with. But the second thing is, I always say, don't lose your accent. Your accent and your dialect is who you are. I say develop a new one. Turn it on when you need it. And I've worked with people in the industry, people I've been friends with for 30 or 40 years, who will be on the air very eloquently, doing a talk up or doing the news, and then they'll get off the air and say, "Hey, I'm tired. Let's go for a beer." They just completely turn it on and off. And I think that's perfectly fine and perfectly valid. With me, it's automatic because I've been at it so long. But, no, don't ever think you have to lose your identity. That's what made you who you are.
I think especially for me because I'm not looking to be a morning talk show host, that's going to be syndicated. I'm just Steph doing my 2 hours once a week. And if it gets syndicated, beautiful, I'll take it. But it's going to be because of my
It
personality, just like you said.
God willing, you'll be syndicated, and everyone will identify with you for who you are, and I think that's what's great about where we are today as opposed to 30, 40, 50 years ago when it was very cut and dry. It was always white men cupping their ears, as the announcers. Women weren't part of the scene as much. Certainly, diversity was not important as it is now. So, yeah, you don't have to worry about as long as you stuff hosts with food and frivolity, you'll be
That's
a
right.
popular guest and host of your own anytime.
Yeah, I do love to cook, and I do love to feed people. It's just something
I
inside me.
know.
It's crazy. I was going to ask you. Now I lost my train of thought because I'm laughing about all this stuff. Um,
I'm so sorry.
well,
It's my
that's
fault.
okay. That's okay. This is how it goes. It'll be even better. So oh, I know. So when I was studying radio at Regis College, I we were actually cueing the records going backwards in listening.
Mhm.
How has radio changed over these decades? What's your bird's eye view of this?
Well, from a technical point of view, yes, it's changed amazingly so, obviously, since the days of queuing up records is what you're referring to. Um, Digital controls didn't exist. Digital wave files didn't exist. And it was more hands-on kind of approach. Nowadays, I have friends who work for major music stations, and they don't touch anything. Everything is automatic. They just open the mic and say what they have to say, and then they go back and sleep for an hour or something. But yeah, radio has changed. TV it's all changed from the technical point of view. Everybody knows that. But what really has also happened, deregulation in the 1990s, stations that you couldn't own more than a couple of stations in a market. Now big companies own big stations, and you're broadcasting from one of the, I think, the classiest and most impressive independently owned radio stations in the country, WATD in Marshfield. I know the owner, Ed Perry.
Mhm.
He's a terrific example of local radio and being connected to the community. That's the biggest change. The fact that we don't have that same local feel. But I'll tell you what hasn't changed. The one constant in this era of AI, artificial intelligence, and automation and all that, the one constant is the human being, you, me, whoever's on the air, or if it's a podcast, same thing, connecting with another human being. It is, you write about this stuff. It's ethereal. It doesn't equal a particular formula. It just happens when it happens naturally, organically. That will never
Yeah. Well,
change.
times
Thank
change,
you.
people don't. We
Yeah.
still have flesh and blood and feelings and emotions and basic human needs and desires. The problem today is those are not getting filled because we're separated by technology. It can bring it
Yes.
together. You can use it to bring people together from across the globe, but it cannot replace human interaction.
Oh, you're so right. When I did the late night show for 20 plus years, the most satisfying moments were when people would call in who were obviously lonely or frightened or sad or not feeling well, and you could feel them through the phone lines, this sense that they felt listened to. And that was and it's not just me, it's whoever was on the air gave them that opportunity for a few minutes to feel alive again. And that's really the majesty and beauty of this art form. Unlike television, which, as you know, and video is a very hot medium, everybody's, dazzled by the sights and sounds, but a lot of times we turn away and we don't pay as much attention. With radio and audio and podcasting, you kind of focus on just one thing, the voice, and that becomes the essence of that human being in your mind, and it's a magical thing that I still find delightful every time I crack the mic.
It is amazing. All right, we're going to take a quick break, and when we come back, more Jordan Rich. Okay, we're back, and I failed to mention this at the beginning, but Jordan is an author too. He's also an author like me. His book is called "My 50-Year Love Affair with Radio" by Jordan Rich. So I don't know if you could see it with my my
I s
my screen.
I have one too, because I always
Oh
keep
yes,
one
yes.
handy for
There you
moments like
go.
this.
There you
It's
go.
there's the on-air sign, so you know it in a microphone. It's pretty obvious what it's all about, but
So how was this? How was writing this? I mean, did you love the process?
it was a very interesting process. I'm used to writing 60-second commercials or letters and emails. I was not used to writing chapters, and I had great help with a fellow named Stephen White, who's a local editor and publisher. And it was, you know this because you've written more than one, very cathartic. You really start to think and feel these words, and then you get them down raw, and then you clean them up and you clean them up and you edit them again, and you want to make them just right. But I don't know if I could do it again. I certainly wouldn't do this kind of thing again because it's a lot of
It is a
work.
lot of
It's
work.
very, very, you know this, right?
You know what?
But
To me, it reminded me of having a baby. You go, I'm never doing this again. Right? And then you just do it. Then you'd go, oh my God, yeah, I feel like having a baby again. Right?
yeah,
I feel like writing a book. So
well, I interviewed you, and I've had the great joy in my life of meeting just about everybody I wanted to meet. And many of the people I've met are some of the world's greatest authors, literally, and many of them live in this area. So I've talked to them about the process, and then when I did it myself, my book's very simple and easy. It's an easy, quick read. But when I did it myself, I realized just what is involved. and it's an enormous amount of dedication. So hats off to you for doing more than one and for doing more in the future, because it's a lot of work, but it was a labor of love. I enjoyed every moment of it.
So now that you brought up the people that you've interviewed, can you name drop and then tell us like who name drop like a few people that you've interviewed that really would be like, oh my gosh,
Well,
I can't believe I met them. And who was the most fun? And what did you
I'll
learn
do
from
the
it?
I'll cheat a little bit, Steph, because in the back of the
Okay.
book I have about 250, and they broke up into different categories. I mean, actors. I mean, I'll just toss a few names. Kirk Douglas was an amazing experience. It was towards the end of his life, and we all know the story of Kirk Douglas. He lived to be 103, but he had a stroke when he was in his 80s. So I did an interview with him on his last book, and he was difficult to understand, but I pre-recorded it and made sure that I edited it so it was cogent and understandable for respect
Mhm.
for him.
Right.
And he's one of the few people, this is a golden age of Hollywood star, who sent me a handwritten thank you note. Amazing. But the list goes
Oh, I
on
have
and on. Rex
chills.
Harrison, Valerie Harper. I'm just looking. Roger Moore, 007. That was a thrill for me. William Shatner, who's still out there at 93 getting it done.
I love
I
him.
mean, it goes on and on. But I'll tell you, in my cavalcade of interviews, a few of them stand out. One of them is Stan Lee, who created Spider-Man and the Marvel Universe. And
Oh,
Stan was at the time in his early 80s, delightful guy, and we did several interviews. Um, Another one was Ray Bradbury, a science fiction writer
yeah.
extraordinary.
Yes.
And a lot of these people didn't often do interviews, so, the secret is always making sure you talk to them as real people as well as fans, 'cause I'm a huge fan. So, I
Right.
mean, I guess, so many, singers, actors, musicians. I can't even think about any ones that's my favorite, but, I still love it. I still get a kick out of interviewing anybody. It's great
Was
fun.
was there anybody that you interviewed that you were so nervous that this was coming up that, this person was just kind of out of sight and you were so nervous about it?
Yeah, there were a couple, that really stand out. One, again, going on the science fiction bent, Arthur C. Clarke, who wrote 2001, and we were interviewing him from his island in Indonesia, and it was a day later wherever he was, and I was just hoping we could get it on live. The other one was, I actually had a dream. I actually dreamt that I would be interviewing this individual about 2 years before I got the chance, and that was Dick Van Dyke, you
Come
know,
on.
and at the time, and I told him, I said, "You know, I know this is gonna sound like a line, Mr. Van Dyke, but I actually had a dream that I was interviewing you." And he said, "Well, I hope I fulfill your dream." But that was a thrill and that was exciting. It's I don't get starstruck, but
Right.
I'm impressed with the achievements of people, and I always want to offer them the opportunity to share their happiness and share their good stuff. I'm not Mike Wallace. I don't go after people after the jugular. I just wanna have a good, fun, upbeat, and a provocative conversation, perhaps.
Well, don't you think people wanna hear what makes people tick and what they're kinda get a glimpse of, their world and be part of it for a second and they don't really don't I mean, that's what I wanna hear. I don't wanna hear, like, all the bad stuff.
Well, what you do and what I do and what so many people do is we've got the gift of gab. So conversation, is what people are looking for. They want to eavesdrop, not a bad thing. Eavesdropping is a good thing when you're doing
Mhm.
what I do and what you do. So as if you're pulling up to the table with a coffee in your hand and you're just sitting and listening to 2 people talking. You don't want it to be question, answer, question, answer, question, answer. You wanna have byplay and interplay, and I agree. I mean, there are times, I mean, I've interviewed many, many stars who have had calamitous moments in their lives. I remember one very, touching interview with Linda Hamilton, who appeared in the Terminator movies. You may remember
Oh,
she was
yes.
married
Uh-huh.
to James Cameron, and Linda Hamilton was openly discussing the fact that she had had terrible bouts of depression
Yeah.
and loss and so forth, and so we talked about that as well as the movie life and sort of melded the 2, and it was a very warm and engaging interview that was really powerful. That's what I like to do. I don't like to, though, embarrass anybody.
Right.
That's too easy.
Well, and then it helps you to realize that these people, use the bathroom. They have flesh and blood. They have feelings and families, and and that's to be respected. I think you have to respect them.
Yeah, and I don't, have an issue with people wanting their privacy. If I'm out to dinner and I see a star of some kind, and I've been to LA many times,
Me too.
I will never ever go over and bug somebody. I will just be excited about seeing somebody, and if I happen to be introduced to them, that's one thing, but I like to, you know, uh,
Yeah, they
keep
need
them
it. They need this space.
right,
Absolutely.
right.
So, yeah, I mean, I love all this. So what's next for Jordan Rich?
What's next? Well, I don't think about next, I think about what's happening right now, and,
That's a great answer.
we were saying off the air that, uh, this last 5-year stretch for me has been an exceptional stretch, a really positive stretch in the sense that I feel, and you and I were talking about this, I feel I'm at the age now, where I'm very comfortable in my own skin. And reputation has been something I've worked at very hard, as you have, and have built and have savored and sort of strengthened. So I'm very confident in what's happening and what's to come. But and this is going to sound a little corny, I love giving back. I really, really dig the fact that I can mentor people as people mentored me. And I think that's with a few wrinkles and a few gray hairs, it comes off a lot easier. And so I'm loving the fact that I've got students and I've got organizations that I can help in a small way, having a blast, having a blast.
Well, that's amazing. You have such a good spirit about you, and and I know you've been through personal loss with losing your wife back in 2013, and I'm sorry, but you've come back, and from that, and it's you always have the loss inside your heart, but it's what you do with your life going forward through post.
Yeah, we are all members of the human family, every single one of us. No one escapes without pain, without challenge. But I like to think the old axiom is true that you what doesn't kill you makes you stronger, and you learn and you develop and you grow and you understand more. It doesn't mean you're perfect. You'll never be perfect, but you'll be better equipped, more resilient if you approach things in a reasonable way. No, there's no such thing as Candyland and gravy every step of the way. You have to face adversity. And I just want to take a moment to compliment you. When I was pitched by your publicist, it took me a while to get back to her because only because I'm so busy, and she was very strong about pushing your agenda, and I love your agenda, but I just couldn't get to it. When I finally got to it, you and I clicked on all cylinders when we met, and so much so that, having me back is this is a great trip for me, a great honor. But, I consider you now a colleague and a friend, and
Oh,
that's the
come on,
best
come on! I'm gonna cry now.
well, and that's the best part of what I do and hopefully what you do now. This enables me to be the guy I can connect to anybody on the planet, and not that I'm gonna have dinner with them every night, but I feel a bond, and that's what we talked about at the beginning, that human connectedness
Yes.
that is missing in the lives of so many. We're blessed to be able to do it and hopefully inspire others to do it.
You're amazing. You're amazing.
So there.
I can't even tell you. I'm like I have tears in my eyes, and I'm so honored and blessed to have met you and worked a little bit with you. And I do hope we can do more of this because I think the world needs to hear what you and I are trying to do. And I'd love to have you come back sometime.
Well, I haven't done it in a while, and it's sort of spotty, but I do something called Lunch with Jordan, a FaceTime Live on Facebook, and I'm going to absolutely invite you to be a guest, and if you can, virtually send me some of that, linguine or whatever you wanna send me through the screen. No, I'm just kidding. We'll
Well,
have you
maybe
back.
you can
Absolutely.
come
Have you
here
back.
with your wife for dinner, and I'll cook for you.
Oh, when a woman says she'll cook for me, especially in a
There
Sicilian,
you go.
I'm
All right,
there.
Jordan, thank you so much for being here. I'm so honored and thrilled, and you're a legend.
Well, I don't know about that,
Well,
but I am a big fan of Steph.
okay. Ciao, ciao,
So all the
baby.
best.